Hey everyone, once again, Mark Moyer in the Clubroom with the Win Again Academy. And I'm about to invite in Brent. He's pretty excited to jump in. I like that. But listen, welcome to this event. It's always fabulous to run these hockey nights. This is the second one. The first one was Riot. Grant was a fabulous speaker for that one. And so Grant's here again today to see if both Brent and Mark can one-up him a little bit. They may be able to, who knows, we'll see. But we're gonna invite them in a second. But in the meantime, again, just wanted to tell you that the whole point of this is to really, number one, provide a really great social and networking opportunity and platform, but secondly, to provide you with some education. So you're learning something here. And we always wanna make sure that there are takeaways from each of these events. So I'm certain that between Brent and Mark, this is going to be some really great stuff. We're going to jump into that in a sec. And once again, just a quick promo, Harlem Standard whiskey tasting is coming up a week from tonight here in this room. So make sure you pre-order a bottle of Harlem Standard bourbon whiskey. And the founder, Brian DeMarco, is going to be doing a really cool thing where he's going to be walking through the whole process of the distillery and everything else that goes on with that. Very cool. And also, Brandi Chastain, one of the top women's soccer players on the planet, is going to be here on Thursday night. And in December, we've got a mental health awareness event on December 1st with a couple of former NFLers who are at the top of the game in that field, along with Eric Kusin, who runs an organization called We're All a Little Crazy. And it's a fabulous alliance of athletes that really are coming together to support mental health. And December 3rd, we've got a baseball event, baseball night, and that's going to be really cool with the current MLBer we can't tell you who it is yet. Then the following week, we've got Dave Meltzer in the room, a pretty big icon, and the following week, one of the top NFLers. So lots going on in the club room, but enough of that. We also have, as I said, the ProPacts, the logo is right dead center in the room. Make sure you click on that at some point and check out more about what they're doing. It's extremely cool. So enough of that, enough of the promo stuff. I'm going to bring in Brent. Why don't you jump on in? And I'm going to bring in Mark too.
Mic on.
And then 1 second for Mark.
Yeah.
And here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay.
So, yeah, just to start off, if any of you guys do click on the website there, we're not completely 100% right of what we're trying to do. But really to start off on what we do and what we're, I guess, trying to accomplish, I'll let Mark start off on kind of his journey and what he's experienced kind of maybe leaving the game and trying to transition into the corporate world.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. So basically bringing everyone here today is to kind of do a little soft launch of what it is ProPacts is all about. A lot of the guys in here are former teammates or some buddies of mine. So a lot of you guys know my story. But for those who don't, I'm a recently retired 14-year professional hockey player. Spent 6 years in the NHL, 5 years in the minors, 3 years overseas. And I've always tried to have some form of a plan of what I wanted to do when my career was over. I never saw, well, I didn't see many of my teammates really plan for the unknown until the unknown kind of came. And that was something I always tried to prepare for. But what I've also learned is no matter how much you have a plan, the plan never goes exactly how you want it to. Brent and I, we grew up, we played competitive hockey and competitive soccer together. Brent's been an entrepreneur of sorts. He's run his own business for the past 10 years. And a lot of what he did initially was developing sport through education, or education, sorry, through sport with Indigenous First Nation communities. And I started speaking a little bit at some of the camps he was hosting here about our legacies beyond the game, trying to educate the kids. And this was years ago, but he started kind of brainstorming, like, there's got to be some way we can kind of bring in this element of like the athlete speaking to, anyways, fast forward to now in the COVID world, retiring, what does that look like for the athlete? And thankfully, alongside of Brent, the face of what we were trying to do has definitely changed multiple times, but I think it's changed in a way that's been very adaptable as well to a COVID world, to a virtual world, both with youth engagements and with corporate engagements. So as Brent's been helping guide me through his own business experiences, what we're trying to do here is taking athletes and a lot of what they've learned, their soft skills through their careers, a lot of the elite athletes have learned, and trying to take those skills, help them first of all identify that, but how we can become useful in many levels in corporate, beyond our game, beyond our sport, beyond our first careers. So what ProPacts kind of does is it takes it kind of fuses, I guess, compelling athlete experiences and stories with this really interactive tech that we use. And from there, we're entertaining, engaging, and educating the virtual workplace. So we're trying to eliminate things that are seen today like Zoom fatigue. We're trying to not just have the prestige of being an elite athlete speaking to a corporation, but not really leaving them with any real message, just sharing a story of our lives or who we are. So we have 45 different modules that all cover habitual learning, life skills, personal development, cultivating culture, and high performance. A lot of them cater to youth specifically, a lot of them cater to corporate, and a lot of them cater to both. So what we're doing is we've had educators curate this content. We implement the athletes' stories or experiences to deliver that. But with the cool interactive tech we're using, it's no longer just a singular monologue or singular conversation or a keynote. It's very engaging. It's very interacting. We'll give you a little demo of how it works. And we're not going to do a full presentation, but we have a pre-recorded little demo to kind of show you how the interaction and some of the material is delivered, but how the engagement really happens between the presenter and the audience. So if you can put yourself in the mind to see whether this is going to be for youth or corporate, you can really see how we're pulling and extracting information from the audience that allows this two-way conversation to now happen, which leaves the audience with not only a better lasting experience, but with more sort of retained knowledge of the material that's been presented as well. So I guess, Brent, I'll hand it over back to you if you want to kind of take off a little bit more on like the business.
Hang on one sec. So I feel like so short version is, and one of the things I want to point out is that one thing I've experienced quite a bit is watching lots of athletes speak at live events that, again, they sort of talk a lot about their story, and they talk a lot about the trials and tribulations they've been through and some of their successes. And by the end of the presentation, there's a lot of times where it's an audience that gets up and claps, or there's a standing ovation or something like that. But then you go back to your cubicle, your desk, or whatever it is, and you're sort of like, okay, I'm motivated, but I'm not sure to do what. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? So to me, what you're talking about, Mark, is really a cure for that. I mean, the whole point of this is that we want to be, if we're going to be spoken to by an athlete, yes, there's that fanboy, fangirl in us that we say, wow, it's so cool to see this particular athlete speak. Wow, that's kind of neat. But at the end of the day, we want something that's delivered so that we will always be able to say a year from now, 10 years from now, I remember the day that I heard Mark Fraser speak, because he talked about blank, and not because he talked about the time he got hit in front of the net, blah, 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 blah. We don't care about that. We care about what he's actually educating us about. So I just want to jump in and say that. Hey, so Brent, give me just before we jump into the rest of the ProPacts story and so forth, I guess what I want to hear is a little bit more about what sort of led you down this path. I mean, I know you had, obviously you've been very successful with another company, and then you sort of, I don't know if it's one day you woke up and said, bing, I can do this, or if it's something that it was several days waking up going bing, but tell me a little bit about how this sort of started and how it's grown since then.
And like, just to sum up on both your kind of points and how we kind of articulate things, where from day one this was going, and I'm going to reverse back and go into the story later on, but it's all about employee engagement. It's all about interaction. We don't get that through Zoom. So what we really do beyond anything else is we kind of not just paint a picture, but we tell a story through the eyes of an athlete that creates this picture for the audience, which puts you in that picture right beside that athlete. It makes them relatable, and it makes the actual interaction fun. Okay, there's tons that we take away from it. More than anything else, it's a complete interactive experience. And that was my thoughts from day one. Everybody was looking at basically COVID and being like, oh my God, I'm not going to get a social life. To tell you the truth, I've been running a remote company for the last 10 years where, you know what, that was how I worked. I had a remote team of 10 that I managed, and I had a great home-based life. But the first thing I said as soon as COVID happened, I phoned Fraser. I'm like, there is an opportunity, let's go. And it took him a while to really see things, because as much as I do sometimes sound like I am articulate, I have like 17 scrolls going on in this head of mine, and they don't always make sense when I try to spit them out of my mouth. So with that being said, I was really trying to get Mark up and running on some of these things and the ideas and how it was. And until I was able to actually create and use all the tech and infuse all those tools, Mark couldn't really see the full picture. As soon as he saw it, he was like, aha, this makes sense. Because the first one we did, we were like, we have something here, and we have something that is completely different than anything that's out there. I had a lot of clients that I could already kind of basically, let's say, vet the idea off of. So first thing I did was a couple calls. Fraser got to meet a couple of these clients, did a couple dry runs, and by time 3, he was like, oh my God, what just happened? Everybody has to see this. So that's a lot of kind of hoopla. It's not a lot of action, and I'm very action-based. So sorry to keep everybody waiting here. I'll give you guys an action snippet. It's not going to tell the whole story. It's not going to paint the whole picture, but it'll give you kind of prelude of how we are going to basically change the dynamic of the virtual workplace. So I'm just going to probably screw around with the controls here until I get them right. But I'm going to paste the clip here. It's going to play a little video. When we do play the video here, guys, please nobody click on play or try to fast forward it, or it will kind of screw up the tape. We just did a kind of pre-recording, and this is a new technology, so that will be fixed. But again, this technology is still being built out, so just kind of ask for your patience. And this is basically a tape of how we onboard athletes and how that process is going to work, with the kind of painting that picture of what an athlete goes through and using our interactions to teach and engage. So here we go. All right, guys. So to start off the session here, we're going to go to ProPacts.ca and enter the code 3425. That's going to get So to, I guess, put Phrase back in the limelight here, just to finish with that last question, Phrase, do you feel like you're ready to talk to a corporate room now?
Completely new journey, and that has just been huge for my transition.
What is going on?
Yes, I think you were talking. Well, the video wasn't over for a bunch of us yet.
All right.
Yeah. So ask me again.
So I guess you heard that last part anyways.
Yeah. Let's ask me again.
No, well, we just heard that definition earlier. So, Phrase, when it comes to, let's say, the journey from where we started to where you are, what is it that kind of put you in a position to succeed and hopefully focus on that corporate side?
I guess, well, to be honest, it's kind of like our process. In building something out with you, I've just gotten more. I've been able to identify, like I said, kind of in that little video clip we recorded. I already knew a lot of what I had that was transferable. I was always very comfortable to begin with speaking, so that was never an issue for me. It was having like a proper sort of business understanding, or just basically what it came down to is taking reps and learning what I had to learn and how I can apply these skills, but in something totally different within my own realm of athletics, in hockey, of kind of being coached, being told where to go, what to do, how high to jump, what to lift, where to shoot, where to pass. That was easy. But having to apply now a lot of my own personal traits to my own thing, that's that. I often used to say, like, I don't know what I'll necessarily do when I'm done, but I'm confident in what that I'll be okay because I know my own abilities. I know making the NHL was really hard. So if I could prove to myself I could do that, I could prove to myself I could do anything. And I still believe that, but it doesn't make it any less scary when you're like, okay, well, now you actually have to prove something to yourself. So I would say what makes me more comfortable now is just that ability of like being forced to take reps, understanding more of like what I do have, and when I communicate now with people, when we're on calls with people, when we're introducing our product to people and seeing their reaction to it, but seeing how they can see value in now what I'm bringing to the table, and having like the confidence I'm now growing to be able to have these conversations with people, to learn certain new vocabulary in in the corporate world as well. I'm being able to like practice what I've always been preaching to myself, but without actually be given the opportunity for getting behind like what I believe in 100% is a good product. But as again, just kind of like taking those reps, learning something new, but applying it, right? That's so much, even with what we do. Brent and I just gave a presentation right before we hopped on this call on sleep, the importance of sleep, to one of his First Nation communities, to a youth group. And in doing something like that, I'm able to now realize and identify like my own sort of comfort levels, my own through my own experiences, like what I can share. And it's taking reps. If I don't like something I did, we can actually go back and watch the video. As all the athletes who are in this room, what do we do in our careers? We go back and watch video to fix things. So it's like getting in, like, I guess I was confident in like having the athlete's mind and how that was going to carry over for me. But until you're actually like physically taking those steps, it can kind of it's very much scary. You don't exactly know what you're going to do. But with the product we're building and the platform you're putting me on, Brent, to allow me to speak to all these new entities, again, whether that be youth and hockey administrations, schools, stage jet programs, or corporations, it's my ability to take these new reps and something I already knew I was capable of doing. We have, like I said, educators who have curated certain content, so I'm implementing my own vision into it. And that process has given me this whole new confidence and ability in what it is that my brand is, and what it is I'm available to offer, and what it is I want to be able to introduce a lot of future retirees from athletics, what they can offer, and on top of that, how you can monetize it as well as a player.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do. So
Mark, you want to chime in?
I think
there?
what's important to understand is that, and you phrased it really well, Mark. The concept that athletes can become amazing speakers and deliver incredible content as they, as you said, go through the reps. But I think it's also all about being properly trained. And because look, at the end of the day, the subject matter, you likely know the subject matter, and a lot of it's coming from yourself. but a lot of times it's the delivery that's awkward, or you're not necessarily sure what your audience really wants or what resonates with them. So clearly, I know this is almost sounding like a gigantic ProPacts commercial, but the point is this. I mean, this is, all of us here in this room are seeing something that's going to really transform the face of how people are speaking and public speaking. It's starting now with, maybe the hockey community, but within a certain amount of time, you're going to see all the top speakers using this stuff. You're going to see Tony Robbins, who's got all these people doing all this crap. Excuse me, maybe it works for some people, but it's going to really transform. I think it's going to be something where he's going to be thrilled to be able to say to everybody, hey, everybody out there, the 20,000 people watching me, go on your phone, type in certain code, and let's just go. Let's rock with this thing. So congrats to you, Brent, and to you, Mark, for really coming up with this. This is fantastic. Give us an idea of when we might be able to learn more about this, timing wise.
So we are launching officially in the Toronto market January 11th. We have a 3-month rollout. We're not rolling into Toronto soft. We should have at least 20 clients booked into January and February from a corporate level. And we have another pathway for the youth sides. It kind of go hand in hand. Completely separate product offerings. Don't get me wrong. It's a completely way of doing things for both clients. Okay. But over the next little bit, next week, we're going to be rolling out, as long as I can fix some of the bottlenecks with regards to the way our content is curated. I can't give away. I don't want to say certain keywords on here. But there's something really even cooler than what we're showing right now that we can release back to different people with regards to some of the information they might have gave us during one of these presentations. So it's still in the works. Next week, I'm hoping to launch Wednesday our first corporate event for leadership, which Mark is going to be talking on. And our first big youth presentation on social media will be next Tuesday for the Toronto market that we're launching. So we're already rolling in the northern communities. We already have a bunch, about 5 of these at least a week in the northern communities. But realistically, the first market is going to be Toronto over the next little bit. Just one last point with regards to the technology side of things. You guys saw a couple different things in there, and I know it's not as interactive as actually doing it and being on that phone. The reason these are so interactive is we're so used to staring at the screen and staring at one way. As soon as we put the eyes off the screen and down on the phones, it just resets our vision and resets our minds to be able to handle and retain more information. So we look at 3-minute blocks, 3-minute blocks, 3-minute blocks, and that's all we can retain. So we break it down as small as possible to build this huge storyline that flows with the athlete's persona and how they relate to every single piece of this information. That's part of the training process. I don't want to get into any of the really IP processes right now. If you guys want to learn more about it, we're happy to help you guys in a room and have some one-on-ones and discuss this. But it's a really cool way of doing things. And Mark, even with regards to some of the content we put in front of you, right? It's like, how do we do this? And 2 minutes later, it's like, okay, I get it. I see the storyline, and you paint in those anecdotes.
An example of even that video clip we just played. That was we did that. We recorded that yesterday. And going through that, it was obviously like meant for this platform to kind of give a little soft introduction of what the presentations are kind of capable of looking like, but it was put together like rather quickly, and you can kind of see the little bit of back and forth sort of banter. You can see the information that's coming in from some of our staff who was the acting audience in that little video clip. But yeah, the point is, I think for the athletes as well, Brent, is the information might take a second sometimes to look at what it is I need to talk about, to identify how I can relate my own experiences to this information. But it's almost like it's some of the presentations we've done when I've almost been like thrown right to the wolves and like, okay, you just kind of got to go. All of a sudden, I'm able to look at perhaps some bullet point information and then just literally without having to write my own script out or without having to like really make it mine, just kind of doing it off the cuff. There's this natural kind of feel and flow to it that it's almost better sometimes than like the really, really scripted versions of it. But the point is, for the athlete, like that's just how easy it is to implement our own experiences or personal anecdotes or whatever, you know. So that little video clip you saw was done rather quickly, but with a little bit more time spent on it, like making kind of, understanding the information and the context a bit and how it applies to your experiences. you can imagine if you're speaking to a group of kids about bullying or the positives or negatives of social media being an elite athlete and the amount of useful information you can instill upon them. Or you want to talk about resiliency or transcending culture in the workplace, transcending culture from a losing to a winning culture. Dive into that material from some of our experiences as athletes. There's so much we can say that we can plug into, so it's when you're able to have the content being delivered through the personal experience of you, the athlete, and then like Brent says, the 3-minute kind of clips, content communication, all while following a particular storyline that is also kind of wrapped around the player's journey, as well as the material that's been curated from educators. So it's we could do it kind of like off the cusp and put something together, or we can spend a little bit of time on it and put another great product together. But just kind of that clip was almost show how easy it kind of is to flow in and out of things, because we did that fairly quickly.
So a couple quick things. Number one, if you have specific questions for Brent or Mark or myself, throw it in the Q&A part instead of the chat part. But there are a couple questions in there. I'm going to start actually with, Sally Ann asked a while back. She said, who's your primary customer? I guess, who's the target really, I guess is what the question is.
And you'll, well, Mark, you'd appreciate me kind of going off on a tangent in this, because I could rhyme this off for a long time. But let's say we have two different market segments. One is youth. So when it comes to youth, we're looking at 13 to 17 is the main demographic, but we have kind of parlays to the program that hit that 17 to 23 range as well, because a lot of this material, especially from the youth, those 45 different programs, I already had a lot of this content built because we literally spent 10 years building a program that built capacity through sports on First Nation communities. So I had a lot of this content, and I literally just revamped it with a couple of the educators we have on staff to really build that out. And then on top of that, there's a couple layers we're building for the corporate side of things that I can't really disclose because there's way too much proprietariness to them right now. But the corporate game and that corporate market segment, there's a huge play in that in the smaller sports.
All right, I like that. I like your you'd be a fantastic politician, by the way.
No, I would not.
You're very slippery with the information, but I know you're protecting it. You're gonna be hearing all about it soon. Yeah. And Graham wants to know, how are you recruiting athletes and how do they get involved if they're interested? And I guess more importantly, in terms of what is the timing of when you want to start bringing them in? And I'm going to have a follow-up question to that, but go ahead.
So I'm going to go to Phrase. Do you want me to disclose everything as in like a little bit of our funneling system? Okay. Long story short here, guys. There's ways to funnel people into rooms like this. Very, very easily and articulate. We have two different people that we want to funnel in this room. One, corporate clients. Two, athletes. We have them mix and match, do stuff exactly like this, and then do a sample leadership presentation. One, at the end of the presentation, Mark then says to all the players, hey, you guys like the way we do things? Do you want to be a part of this team? We have tryouts then through this platform on a separate, in this exact room, where we do the pitch, where we walk you guys through everything else. Complete opposite side, we have two other of our basically staffers that do the corporate bookings that are in the room after that presentation to take the one-on-one calendars after the room is done.
Nice. So I think what an athlete might try to wonder is, some of them are very comfortable speaking on stage and others are less comfortable. But is part of what you guys are doing, is part of it going to be sort of the overall training on how to be a better public speaker, and not just the deliverable and not just the using the technology, but just how to, whether it's projecting more or doing this or that? Or is that something you can do, or what do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. We've talked to a number of, I guess, speech coaches that we potentially will have. Well, we definitely already have as resources, but I guess simply it can be as easy as, like I said, with the reps, going over video. We can have, first of all, through the onboarding process, we'll kind of know how good someone may be at speaking to begin with. But as they're getting more comfortable in their own skin doing it from the athlete, we go over, we can coach them up ourselves on certain, tone, dictation, mirroring, those types of things. But we also do, yes, have resources from sort of public keynote, we'll call them keynote, I guess, coaches, who if we need to actually invest a little bit more in the polishing, we'll say, of that athlete, then absolutely we can do that 100%.
Sure.
And on that point, not to kind of throw you under the bus, Mark, a little bit, but basically, exactly from day one, it's the structure that we have in place to make guys like you succeed. If you see yourself from day one and exactly what you've done without any actually training, the program and the way we structure, not just the way the presentations run, but the way we make the athletes think about the material that's in front of them and not give them full scripts. Just give them simple lines and plug in their own information. That's why we focus on youth first. That is the training ground. That is where you guys train and can refine. And you know what? Make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Okay. So make them there and refine that way that you speak. Find that, I don't know, nuance of you. So Mark is a very articulate speaker. Blundo is a guy that is so personal and bubbly that he's just going to light up a room just from his connections, right? But find that thing that makes you you. And you can do that from basically just practicing with the youth audiences we have daily and following that storyline. Every single point that we have, all the scripts that we've built in behind the scenes, it's literally for athletes to plug and play and create it their own. Create their own content, but be creative rather than be focused on exactly. We don't tell you what to do. We try to make you step by step start getting out of that box that your mind has been in the last 15 years. So sorry, Mark, if that kind of stepped on your toes. And you might not see it happening behind the scenes, but I can see it because I've seen the process from where you are day one and where you are now already, and that's not even 2 months.
I fully agree,
right?
and we've had so far had a few athletes who I'm sure they could honestly say like public speaking isn't something they're comfortable enough with it because of the career of being an athlete where they've been asked to do it, but it's not something they really like want to sign up to do necessarily. And they've been coming in and they've been nailing these presentations because again, they're just connecting with the material we're putting in front of them, asking for their own creativity and sort of their experience to come through whatever it is the topic is, whatever it is the points we put in front of them are. So now it's their own words. It's not asking them to write a keynote. It's not asking them to write this speech and deliver it in front of hundreds of people. They're delivering their own, I guess, twist on the material, but still very much hitting all those important points. But it's just allowing them to have this whole new level of comfort. And then the finished product is they look like an amazing public speaker without having to really done all that much on the back end.
And just to follow up on that last point, I don't want to talk everybody's ear off here, and this isn't the interaction or the interaction I usually enjoy, or I don't actually enjoy talking much on stage or anywhere in general. I would rather be in my mind. But to finish things off here, guys, just like Mark said, we've had 3 different people present on social media, and it's been completely different experience for every single one of them. We ask the same questions, and it follows the same story, but you guys see that information differently. So you get to tell the story. We're just a vehicle that you can tell your story and put it out the world and more redefine that story so it's better and better. And then hopefully you can monetize that when the time comes, right? And when you guys are ready for showtime in the next group.
Now the best thing about all this, everybody, is that this entire presentation has been fully scripted by these guys. What you just heard by Brent was fully scripted, but it doesn't even seem like it. No, I'm kidding about that. But what's great about this, though, honestly, is that if some parts of it are scripted, when you present, it's done in a way that it's a natural. It's you speaking naturally. It's not. Doesn't sound like you're reading from a script, and that's the beauty of it, because at the end of the day, people want to see the real you and not the fake you. So this has been fabulous, gentlemen. So I encourage everybody to reach out to both of you, whether it's continuing at the tables here today or on social media, whether it's LinkedIn. You're both on LinkedIn very much, and but also Ish and whatever that nod was, but you're on there, and yeah. But also there'll be emails and so forth, and we want to make sure that everyone keeps an eye on what ProPacts is doing over the next few months, because it's going to be a growing thing. I don't know why they decided to start in Toronto, not down here. I'm joking. I know why, but everyone, plus the audiences up there are so much nicer, I'm sure. and easygoing and all that sort of thing. So, but listen, gentlemen, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to throw in there before we jump back to the tables? Yeah.
Just one thing I would ask is, like, I do want to talk to different people in here, but I'm still in a build stage for the next probably week and a half. So Mark might be taking a couple of calls here or there and talk to you some guys, but literally I'm in sprint mode right now. It's literally 16+ hour days. I'm running on 4 hours sleep nightly, and literally it's killing me slowly, fastly. I don't know. Yeah, it's fun. Like, I'm enjoying every single minute of this, guys. But by all means, like, I'm still focused on the product and getting those perfect articulate things. So if I don't reach back to you right away, I do apologize. It will be in due time. That's the only thing I want to say.
Nicely stated.
Grace?
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, he is running himself some really long hours, some really long days. A lot of our staff is, but Brent certainly is, because he's the builder behind a lot of this. So feel free to also reach out to me if need be. I probably have a few more hours of availability than he does.
Thing, everybody, is that Brent actually shaved his beard completely off this morning, so that's how stressed he is. It just pops right out. Anyway, well, listen, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. You know, anytime we get people of your caliber in the club room, it's fantastic. And what's really exciting to me is the concept that, Mark, you yourself, I mean, you've just retired, but you're hitting the ground running big time. And one of the things I like to talk about, especially with athlete transition, is really making sure that not just as you retire, you have something that you can be really an elite level person at again, but it's something you start thinking about while you're still playing. And whether it's developing a secondary interest instead of a plan B, no one wants a plan B, but developing that secondary interest. In this case here, it might as well just be becoming a fantastic public speaker. You know, the world is starving for great content. There's a lot of crappy stuff out there. And so if you guys are clearly on the pathway to showing people how to develop that great top-notch content that really is delivered. So thanks again, gentlemen, for being here. And we're going to jump back to the tables and continue our process. Yeah, Brent.
And just one thing. One, I want to thank Grant over
Yeah,
here for introducing us to you, Mark. Just for the guys that don't know Mark in this room, okay? Amazing guy, great personality, and just means well. I don't think he has a mean bone in his body. You know what I mean? He cares about what he does, and he really wants to just help people grow. So if you guys have anything as athletes, I guess, as Mark, not me being in those shoes, because his body type hasn't been an athlete since the age of 17. He's just a great guy. And like, if they ever want to bounce anything off him, I know he has a guy that he always has an open ear and is willing to help whoever's around. So, Mark, I appreciate you putting us on here today. And I appreciate everything you've done
so much.
for us.
My pleasure. And I'm really excited and very anxious to see how this all shakes out. It's going to be amazing. So thanks for introducing me to that.